I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I work in clinical nutrition. I deal with food allergies and dietary restrictions every single day. It's my job to know exactly how allergies work, what they look like, how the body reacts, how to manage them, how to test for them. So maybe that's why this whole situation hit a boiling point when it did. Or maybe I was just sick of being played for a fool. My older sister, Alex, is 31. Ever since we were kids, she's claimed to have a severe shellfish allergy. And I don't mean just a mild reaction or stomach upset. I'm talking full-on, I could die if I even smell shrimp kind of claims. Our parents believed her without question. So no seafood was ever allowed in our house. Ever. No shrimp, no crab, not even fish sticks. If we went to a restaurant and the menu had even one seafood item, my parents would make a scene and demand to speak to the manager. Alex didn't have to lift a finger. She just sat there, pale and fragile, as if the mere presence of prawns was going to send her into anaphylaxis. I was too young back then to really question it. But I remember my childhood clearly, birthday parties where she demanded the entire menu be changed. Family vacations ruined because a waiter didn't understand her instructions. At one point, our neighbor's dog had to be rehomed because it ate fish-based kibble, and she insisted the smell made her throat tingly. My parents went along with all of it. To them, any doubt was cruelty. I remember once, around middle school, I asked why she didn't carry an EpiPen. My mom snapped at me so fast I thought she was joking. I learned then that asking questions made me the bad guy. But as we got older, things started not adding up. Alex got into a food phase in her 20s. She posted elaborate charcuterie boards on her Instagram. She went on sushi dates with her boyfriends. She had a Caesar salad obsession for a while, eating it almost every other day. I know most people wouldn't think twice about it, but I did. Caesar dressing is made with anchovy paste. I asked her once, casually, if she made her own dressing. She looked confused for a second, then said she only used the vegan kind. I checked her fridge a few days later when we visited. It was Kraft. Regular, anchovy-filled Kraft Caesar. Still, I kept quiet. I knew the fight wasn't worth it. Once I started working in nutrition, the inconsistencies became even harder to ignore. Her story kept changing. She told one friend she was allergic to iodine. She told another she could eat crab in small amounts, but shrimp made her skin burn. I noticed she never had prescriptions. No EpiPen, no antihistamines, no doctor notes. And yet she had no problem storming out of a catered event because someone brought shrimp spring rolls. She would cry and say people didn't care about her safety. She'd post dramatic stories online about how traumatizing it was to constantly be dismissed. Then came the rehearsal dinner. One of my closest friends, a former college roommate, was getting married. Her rehearsal dinner was at a cute little bistro with a fixed menu. Shellfish was optional for one of the courses, and the restaurant even printed disclaimers about potential cross-contamination. Nothing out of the ordinary. Alex lost it. She stood up in the middle of the room and demanded to speak to the chef. When the poor hostess came over, Alex started shouting about how this was an attempted murder and how she'd never felt more unsafe. My friend was so embarrassed she started crying. Her fiancé had to pull Alex aside and ask her to leave. That night, Alex messaged me with a long voice note about how I should have warned them and how I clearly didn't care about her health. I didn't respond. Instead, I started paying attention. I began watching her more carefully. At family barbecues, she'd hover near my husband when he made shrimp skewers. Once, I caught her sneaking a bite of his shrimp tacos while chatting in the kitchen. She looked up, saw me, and laughed it off by saying, "It's fine. I took a lactate, for shellfish." That was when I stopped wondering and started planning. A few weeks later, my parents decided to host a little family dinner. Just me, Alex, our husbands, and them. My mom wanted it to be a bonding night since we hadn't all been together in a while. I offered to cook. No one questioned it. I made 2 identical pasta dishes. Both were creamy garlic linguine with roasted tomatoes and fresh parsley. The only difference? One had sautéed shrimp mixed in. The other was plain. Before plating, I quietly swapped the labels. I kept the shrimp bowl near my mom's seat, the allergy-safe one near Alex. I watched her closely. She didn't ask a single question, didn't check ingredients, didn't sniff the dish. She just dug in and chatted away like nothing was out of the ordinary. My husband, who's a nurse, was sitting next to me. We had EpiPens ready, just in case, but I was already sure nothing would happen. And I was right. She cleaned the plate. Not a single sign of discomfort. No swelling, no hives, no coughing. Just compliments about how restaurant quality my cooking was. I waited 20 minutes. Then I clutched my throat, gasped, and collapsed onto the floor. The moment I hit the floor, it was chaos. My mom screamed first. My dad jumped up and knocked over his chair. My husband was already beside me, checking my pulse and pretending to administer an antihistamine he had in his pocket. I could hear someone fumbling with their phone, probably trying to call an ambulance. Alex didn't move. She just sat there, holding her fork mid-air, eyes wide, but not with concern. No rushing over, no questions, no panic. Just frozen. Watching. My husband leaned over me and asked what I'd eaten. Odd enough for everyone to hear. I kept my breathing shallow, tried to wheeze a little, and reached for my neck like I was fighting to breathe. I had a small blush compact hidden in my pocket, just a pink shimmer, and I used it to pat quickly along my neck and collarbone while everyone was distracted. It gave the appearance of hives starting to spread. I felt his hand squeeze mine for a second, just a signal that we were in sync. He turned to the table again and repeated himself. What did she eat? That's when it happened. Alex, without even thinking, said she had the shrimp pasta. She glanced at the plates and pointed to one of them, the one I'd intentionally labeled as safe, then added, "I thought it was yours." My dad looked from me to her, back to the plate. Then he said it, slowly, like he was trying to make sense of the words as they came out of his mouth. "Wait, shrimp? Did you both eat shrimp?" My mom gasped. Alex opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted around the table. I could see her trying to come up with something. She was still holding her fork. I sat up slowly, still wheezing. Then I just stopped, took a deep breath, perfectly calm, and I turned to Alex. "Did you eat shrimp too?" Her face dropped. Not scared, not confused, just pale. My mom asked how I was suddenly okay. I stood up and said clearly because I never had a reaction. I faked it, just like Alex has been faking hers. The room went still. My mom's mouth opened and closed like she couldn't form words. My dad sat back in his chair, like someone had pulled the floor out from under him. Alex shot up from her seat. She pointed at me, shaking, and started yelling that I was doing this to humiliate her, that I always hated her, that the shrimp must have been imitation, not real, and that she hadn't eaten enough to cause a reaction. She kept throwing out reasons, excuses, anything. I walked to the kitchen and came back with the shrimp bag and the recipe card I'd printed out. Set them both on the table. Wild caught, deveined, peeled shrimp. I listed every ingredient I used in both pasta bowls, identical except for the shrimp. I hadn't made a mistake. There was no wiggle room. She ate it, and nothing happened. My dad looked like he was going to be sick. My mom just kept whispering this can't be right over and over. Like if she said it enough times, it would undo everything. And then Alex snapped. So what if I don't really react? I don't like shrimp, okay? Dead silence. No one spoke. No one moved. That was it. Years of drama, of control, of guilt trips and cancellations and public scenes boiled down to the fact that she just didn't like it. And instead of saying that, she built a fake medical condition to get what she wanted, over and over, for more than 2 decades. She realized what she said about 5 seconds too late. Her hands flew to her mouth like she could catch the words mid-air, but the damage was done. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. Slammed the front door so hard a framed photo on the hallway wall fell off. My mom sat back in her chair and started sobbing into her napkin. My dad still hadn't said a word. He just stared at the shrimp bowl like it was radioactive. No one finished their food. My husband helped me gather the dishes while my parents sat there, stunned. We didn't speak much, just packed up quietly and left. My mom didn't even look up when we said goodbye. I haven't heard from Alex since that night. No messages, no calls. I didn't block her, but she hasn't reached out either. I checked her social media later, she blocked me. It's strange. All that power she had over our family vanished in a single evening. No meltdown, no allergy scare, no performance. Just a single sentence and a door slam. And I made sure everyone was watching when it happened. About a week after the dinner, Alex started doing what she's always done when things don't go her way, making herself the victim, without ever saying what actually happened. I didn't hear from her directly, but word started getting back to me through family. My aunt called and asked if everything was all right between us. Apparently, Alex had said something vague about betrayal that was weeks in the making, and how some people only feel powerful when they're hurting others. She never used my name, but no one was confused about who she meant. I didn't answer the rumors publicly. I sent her one email, just one. It wasn't long. I didn't insult her. I didn't call her a liar. I listed point by point every time I'd seen her eat shellfish or talk about it like it was no big deal. I included dates, specifics. A photo she posted from Barcelona with a lobster tail on the plate. That time she told me scallops were too rubbery at a wedding. The way she raved about crab rangoons from her favorite takeout spot. I ended the email by saying, "This isn't about ruining you. It's about finally stopping the performance." She didn't respond, but the passive-aggressive messages stopped. Not long after that, my mother called me. She was crying. She said she didn't know what to believe anymore, that she raised both of us the best she could, and now everything felt like it was falling apart. She asked me why I had to do it like that, why I had to make a show out of it. I didn't say much. I just told her to ask Alex why she never once had an actual allergic reaction, despite years of life-threatening danger. My father stayed quiet, like he always does. But a few days later, he asked to meet me alone. We sat outside a cafe. He waited until the server left and then leaned in. He told me he'd had doubts for a long time, not because of anything specific, but because things never lined up. He once asked Alex about her allergy at a family dinner, and she snapped at him so harshly, he said he never brought it up again. He didn't want to upset her. He said it just became easier to let it be true. The only one who really surprised me was my younger brother, Jonah. He's usually the one who avoids anything that even smells like drama. He texted me 2 days after the dinner with just one sentence, "Holy crap, I think you did the right thing." Meanwhile, Alex was spinning a new version of events. According to what I was hearing through family, she'd started saying she accidentally ate shrimp because I served it to her without warning. She said her reaction was delayed because it was emotional, not physical. Apparently, she told someone that she froze during the dinner because of how traumatic it was, or that she left because she felt ambushed, not because she was exposed, just because she was overwhelmed. That's when I started remembering other moments. Things I brushed off before. Like when she told her college roommate she couldn't even be near fish oil supplements, then offered that same roommate salmon jerky on a road trip 2 months later. Or the time she threw a fit because a potluck had shrimp fried rice, but the next week she brought crab dip to her book club. It wasn't just one moment, it had been going on for years. Our parents were stuck in the middle. My mother told me she felt like she had 2 daughters who now hated each other. She begged us both to come to family counseling. I said no. I told her clearly I'm not the one who needs mediation. Then something happened that even I didn't expect. Alex's workplace found out. She told her office she had a shellfish allergy years ago. They'd adjusted catering for events. Someone told me they even changed seating arrangements during a retreat to make sure no seafood came near her. When the dinner story made its way through family, it eventually reached someone at her job. Not the full story, just whispers that she might not have been truthful about her allergy, enough to raise questions. My mother let it slip during a phone call. Alex had tried to get ahead of things by telling her team there had been a misunderstanding at a family dinner. She didn't admit anything, just said the situation was complicated and she felt targeted. But apparently it didn't go over well. Human resources got involved. Her manager had questions. She's been on edge ever since. Then my mother came to my house. Alone. No warning. She sat at my kitchen table and told me, if this ruins her job, I don't know how we'll ever recover. I didn't argue. I just said, she did that, not me. Aria, A few days later, both my parents called us for a joint conversation. Not together, separate calls, but with the same message. They decided they needed space. From both of us. They said I crossed a line, but so did she. They're asking Alex to stay away for a while, and they told me not to reach out either. I didn't push back. I didn't try to explain again. I've done enough explaining. I was at work when the call came in from Human Resources. They said someone had submitted a formal complaint through a professional network connected to our field. At first, I assumed it was a mistake, until I saw the name. It was Alex. Even though we don't work at the same company, our industries overlap. She's in public relations for a health food brand, and I'm in clinical nutrition consulting. We've both attended similar trade shows, wellness panels, and professional mixers. Our companies show up in the same publications. So, technically, she used one of those shared professional networks to file a complaint against me. The complaint accused me of orchestrating a public health hoax, discrediting her medical condition, and creating a hostile environment at shared networking functions. She claimed I damaged her career through malicious intent disguised as concern. My HR department couldn't act on it directly. We don't work together, so there's no internal action they can take. But they gave me a heads up, said industry gossip spreads fast, and my professional reputation could be affected if I didn't manage the situation carefully. That's when I realized how far she was willing to take this. I started reaching out to people in my circle, people I trust. Some of them had already heard the story. A few admitted they'd received direct messages from Alex. She sent private screenshots of our dinner fallout, portions of the email I wrote her, and vague claims that I was using my credentials to bully and discredit vulnerable people. One of my professional contacts told me a popular nutrition blog, one that had previously featured an article I wrote on allergen labeling. It quietly pulled the piece from their site. No notice. Just removed. The timing wasn't a coincidence. Around that same time, Alex posted on LinkedIn a long, dramatic paragraph about being betrayed by someone who shares your bloodline, how she was attacked publicly by a family member masquerading as the health expert. She didn't name me, but again, no one was confused. Some people replied with supportive comments. They called her brave, told her to stay strong, but others started asking questions. Someone asked if she had ever posted proof of her medical diagnosis. Someone else gently pushed for clarification, asking if she carried an EpiPen or had documentation. She didn't reply to those. Then I got a message from someone I didn't know. It was anonymous, but they identified themselves as a former coworker of Alex's. They said she once insisted on going to a sushi restaurant for a team dinner, ordered spicy tuna rolls and miso soup. No issues. But months later, when asked to attend a seafood-themed retreat for team building, she refused. Claimed she had a severe shellfish allergy and couldn't risk it. The message ended with, "You're not the only one who's noticed." That same week, screenshots started circulating in a private allergy support group where Alex had been active. Photos of her eating crab cakes at a restaurant, a birthday dinner where someone tagged her enjoying shrimp pasta. People started distancing themselves. One of the group admins removed her from the discussion board and posted a disclaimer about misrepresentation harming community trust. Her professional world kept shifting. One of her sponsors, a vegan protein powder brand, cut ties with her. They sent out an email to their newsletter list with a short but clear message about maintaining brand integrity and no longer partnering with individuals under public credibility review. My parents found out about everything almost immediately. They called, furious. My mother asked why I was still posting about it. She blamed me for making it public. I reminded her that I wasn't the one who started posting online. Alex had already gone public with her vague version of events. I was simply correcting the story, with facts. They begged me to delete everything. I told them no. I said she used a fake illness to control our lives. I'm not apologizing for calling it out. Then came the text. Alex messaged me directly. Just one sentence. See you in court. She blocked me right after that. Her number is now unreachable. The next day, I received a letter from a law firm. Not a lawsuit, but a cease and desist. The letter claimed I damaged her professional credibility, painted her in a false light, and caused her to lose income. It accused me of slander and defamation and demanded that I retract all statements and refrain from further commentary about her. My husband read through the letter and immediately pointed out how vague it was. It didn't address anything specific I said, just called it public mischaracterization. He called a lawyer friend for advice. We were told it looked more like a scare tactic than a real threat. But it confirmed one thing, she was willing to burn every bridge to avoid admitting the truth. The cease and desist letter turned out to be more bark than bite. I had it looked over by a lawyer my husband knows from his hospital. His review was simple. It's hollow. The wording was vague, the claims were emotional, and unless Alex could prove I said something factually untrue, there was no legal ground to stand on. He told me not to respond and not to worry. So I didn't. Instead, I focused on my work. I started outlining an article. Not one I planned to publish, just a private draft. It was about how exaggerated or fake allergy claims harm people with real conditions. I wrote about what it does to public trust, how people become less careful when they stop believing anyone's allergy is real. I never attached names. I never mentioned Alex. It was just for me to organize everything and remind myself that telling the truth isn't the same as attacking someone. While I was doing that, my mother found a new way to insert herself. She called my husband behind my back. She didn't ask how we were doing. She asked him to talk sense into me, told him I was damaging the family, that if I didn't back off, Alex might never recover. My husband didn't sugarcoat anything. He told her flatly that I wasn't doing anything wrong, saying that the real damage had been going on for years, and that it was time someone actually said something. Then came the messages. My mother started privately messaging extended family. Aunts, cousins, even my father's older sister who barely knows Alex. She told them I was obsessed, that I couldn't let things go, that I was vindictive and trying to destroy my sister's life. She didn't mention the dinner or the fake allergy, just painted the picture of a bitter younger sibling with a grudge. One of my aunts actually called me, asked me what this was all about. I explained what had happened, point by point. She listened for a few minutes, then asked, "But why are you jealous of Alex?" I asked her, jealous of what? Her imaginary health issues? She hung up. That same week, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from since middle school. She sent me an old class photo, and with it, a memory. Back during a school bake sale, Alex had loudly claimed she had a peanut allergy and couldn't eat anything that wasn't prepackaged. But later that same day, she traded her juice box for a peanut butter brownie and finished it without blinking. I started collecting these moments. I made a folder, old photos, screenshots, messages, casual conversations, even social media posts. Not to share, not to go public, just to understand how far back it went, and how many people had looked the other way. It wasn't about just one fake allergy. It was a pattern. If it wasn't shellfish, it was peanuts. If it wasn't food, it was perfumes or environmental triggers or unexplained chronic fatigue. Always something that gave her control of the room. Then a friend in the wellness industry reached out. She said she'd heard Alex on a podcast, a small one, mostly for yoga and clean eating enthusiasts. Alex had been a guest and told a story about a sister who tried to poison her under the guise of a family dinner. She didn't use my name, but she described me, our professions, our age gap, the shrimp. I reported the episode for medical misinformation. No action was taken. But I stopped listening after that. I didn't respond. I didn't post. There's no point chasing fiction when the audience prefers the drama. Instead, I kept doing the work I've always done. Every class I taught, every client I met with, I stayed focused. If anything, I became more deliberate. I spoke more carefully about real food allergies. I made sure every warning label, every dietary need, was respected. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up. 3 days ago, she knocked on my door. No call, no warning, no cameras or dramatic entrance. Just standing on the porch like nothing had happened. She looked tired, makeup-free, not performative like she usually is. She said, "I need to talk." I didn't let her in. I stood in the doorway and asked, "About what?" She said, "To talk like sisters." I told her, "Then stop lying like a stranger." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she stepped back, nodded once, and left. We just finished prepping lunch, thinking the day would stay peaceful. But when the doorbell rang, the energy in the house shifted instantly. The next day, my mother texted him again. He didn't answer. I told my mother I wasn't coming to Thanksgiving. After everything, the podcast, the surprise doorstep visit, the messages she kept sending through my husband, it didn't make sense to sit at a table like nothing had happened. Her reply came within minutes. "Then don't expect us to visit you either." That was the last message she sent before going quiet again. Later that evening, my father texted me privately. He didn't say much, just that he didn't agree with my mother, but he also couldn't stop her. That said enough. He wouldn't fight her on it. He never really had. We planned a quiet day at home. My husband and I cooked together. Nothing fancy, just a small meal, music in the background, no tension. Or at least that was the plan. Around 11:30 in the morning, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Alex. She was standing on the porch with sunglasses on and a pie in her hands, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a woman I didn't recognize, older, stiff posture, holding a clipboard. My husband stepped into the hallway and mouthed, "Seriously?" When I opened the door, Alex smiled like it was a casual visit. Alex had always found new ways to flip the script, at weddings, birthdays, even her workplace. So I guess I shouldn't have been surprised when she brought someone along to Thanksgiving. I didn't answer. I just stared at her. Alex asked if they could come inside so Clarissa could observe me preparing food, to confirm that I behave ethically with ingredients. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. I told them both to leave. Clarissa stepped forward and said I was blocking mediation. I looked at her, stunned. Alex had really escalated, turning Thanksgiving into a performative PR stunt. I said, "This isn't mediation. This is theater." Alex didn't fight. She just turned to Clarissa and said, loud enough for the door camera to pick up, "You saw that, right? She can't even pretend to be decent." Then they left. 3 hours later, a clip appeared on Alex's social media. It was cropped, just the part where I refused to let them in and closed the door. The caption read, "Trying to be civil, but she won't allow healing." Her followers jumped in immediately. Most took her side. A few commented that I was being cold or that I had something to hide. But then people started asking questions. Why bring a nutritionist to someone's home on a holiday? Why film it if it was really about healing? And why hadn't Alex ever shown medical proof? That night, I uploaded the full video from our security system. It showed everything: her arrival, the clipboard, the request, the statement about observing food behavior, and her last line to Clarissa. I didn't add commentary, just posted the full footage. By morning, her social media pages were either deleted or switched to private. Every account that used to have her allergy tips and brand promos was wiped clean. My parents didn't text until the afternoon. Their message wasn't about what Alex did. It was about the video. "You're making this public again." My mother wrote, "This is cruel." I didn't reply, but someone else did. Our family group chat, which had been silent for weeks, finally lit up. One of my cousins, who rarely speaks up, posted a single message: "Why is no one asking why Alex faked an allergy for 20 years? No one responded. Not a single reply. The chat has been quiet ever since. 1 week after Thanksgiving, I received a package in the mail. No return address, just my name on a plain envelope. Inside were printed test results, highlighted and underlined, with a cover sheet that read, "Proof." It was Alex's name, a shellfish allergy diagnosis, and a doctor's signature. Except the format was wrong. The clinic name was legitimate, but the format didn't match what I knew from experience. The logo looked pixelated, the layout seemed generic, and it was missing the footer and watermark that all local clinics use for official documents. I called the clinic, spoke to their front office, and asked if they issued records in that format. They confirmed they did not. Every document comes through their patient portal, and they don't send paper versions unless requested with a notarized form. There was no request under Alex's name. The version I had was fake. She faked medical records. My husband scanned the envelope, just in case. No tracking info. No fingerprints obvious on the paper. We stored the file, but I didn't reach out. There's nothing left to clarify. At this point, every step she takes proves what I already knew. She's not trying to recover. She's trying to rewrite. And I'm not giving her the pen. After the clinic confirmed that the documents Alex sent were fake, I sent her one last email. No emotion, no insults, just a clear message. You've crossed into criminal territory. I suggest you stop before you make things worse. That was it. I didn't get a reply. No email, no text, no anonymous burner message. She didn't post anything either. Her pages stayed locked down. It wasn't just silence, it was stillness. Like she was waiting. Or maybe preparing. 1 week later, my parents showed up at my front door without warning. They didn't look angry. They looked tired. My father's shoulders slumped like he'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. My mother stood behind him, holding a folder and a reusable grocery bag like she wasn't sure which one mattered more. We didn't sit in the living room. We ended up in the kitchen, like always. That's where the truth came out. My father said it first. Quiet. Flat. We know the test results were fake. Alex admitted it. My mother's voice cracked. She said she didn't want to believe it. That it was easier to assume I'd exaggerated or misunderstood than to accept that her oldest daughter had been lying for decades. But Alex confessed. Not in a dramatic meltdown, but in a quiet call that left them stunned. After I emailed her about the forgery, she panicked. She told them everything, not because she was ready to be honest, but because she was afraid the next fallout would be worse. According to my mother, Alex called it a lie that got out of hand. A lie she started believing herself. It began when she was 9. She ate shrimp at a birthday party, threw up, and decided it was an allergy. Her words, not mine. The attention scared her at first, then it became comforting. People cared. People adjusted. She felt protected. Over time, she didn't just stick to the story, she built her identity around it. My father said she figured out early that a life-threatening condition gave her power. Teachers excused her from group projects. Counselors let her skip uncomfortable activities. At home, they never questioned her preferences. She got what she wanted, and they told themselves it wasn't a big deal. We were just relieved it wasn't drugs or something worse, my father admitted. My mother's guilt poured out next. Not just over believing the allergy, but over how it shaped the rest of our lives. She said they didn't treat Alex like the golden child. They treated her like glass. Fragile, breakable, unpredictable. And because of that, they let her dictate our meals, vacations, and even the way holidays were celebrated. I asked the question I'd waited my entire adult life to ask. Then why was I always the one who had to adjust? My father didn't dodge it. He just lowered his head and said, because we thought you could handle it. My mother's hands started shaking. She said she never meant to treat me like I didn't matter. That in her mind, I was the one she never had to worry about. But looking back, she sees how that belief made me invisible. You were never the background character in this family, she said, even if it felt that way. I'm sorry we didn't see the imbalance sooner. They didn't ask me to forgive Alex. They didn't ask me to fix anything. They just wanted to tell me the truth face to face. I told them I wasn't sure what rebuilding even looked like. I wasn't interested in brushing everything under the rug. But I did appreciate the honesty for once, no spin. A few weeks later, Alex vanished from the industry. According to my parents, she left her job in public relations and didn't tell anyone where she was going. No exit post. No rebrand. Just silence. She said she was taking time off. They don't know where she's living now, only that it's out of state and she's not working. Then came the letter. It arrived in a basic envelope, handwritten, with no return address. No dramatic opening line. Just facts. She admitted to everything. Not just the allergy, but the patterns. The lies. The controlling behavior. She called it compulsive. Said she didn't know who she was without the allergy story because she'd wrapped so much of her life around it. One sentence stuck with me. I ruined every table I ever sat at because I needed everyone to look at me and never at each other. I didn't call. I didn't write back immediately. But eventually, I sent a short response. I told her I appreciated the accountability. I wasn't ready for sisterhood again, but maybe someday we could check in. Not out of guilt. Just curiosity. People can change, but they have to live in the truth to earn that chance. My parents have started going to therapy. Not for Alex, this time for themselves. They said they spent too many years avoiding conflict and calling it protection. Now they're learning how to face what they ignored. Alex hasn't returned. She moved somewhere quiet, no job announcements, no social media. My father said she told him she's taking a year to be nobody. I don't know what that means for her, but at least she's not pretending anymore. As for me, I'm still working in clinical nutrition. I've been speaking on panels again. I focus my time on real allergy education. I meet people who've been ignored or doubted, and I remind them that truth doesn't need theater. For years, I thought Alex's lie was about control. And maybe at first it was. But in the end, it became something else, a costume she forgot how to take off. And the longer she wore it, the more invisible I became. Now she's gone. And I'm finally visible.